Before we get into today's video, I'd like to direct your attention to the link in the description below to support the Black Lives Matter movement. There are petitions you can sign, places you can donate, things you can do if you have absolutely no money, ways to contact your representatives, and resources on how to educate yourself to become a better ally. Black Lives Matter, defund the police. Please enjoy the video. What's up, guys? It's V Renee. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. It's time. We're talking about the OG cringe novel, Stephenie Meyer's Twilight. So let's just get this out of the way. If you couldn't tell, I was Twilight trash when I was younger. I was obsessed with Twilight in middle school. Twilight inspired me to start writing. I wrote a Twilight ripoff as my first novel called Momentum. I read part of it on my channel. I'll put the link in the description or in the cards so that you can suffer with me. That was the most painful video I've ever made. But really fun to like revisit how much of an effect this book series had on me as a 12, 13, 14-year-old. Also saw the movie between 6 and 8 times in the theater. Thank you to my Aunt Paula, who shared my obsession with it and took me to see it too many times. We may have single-handedly inflated their box office numbers. I still bump the Twilight soundtrack in my car from a burned CD. Children gather round. We used to burn CDs. I still bump that CD in my car. But we're not here to talk about the possibly superior movie adaptation of Twilight. We're here to talk about the 2005 novel by Stephenie Meyer. Firstly, is firstly a word? Either way, thank you to the book gods that this is only 24 chapters, 26 if you include the prologue and the epilogue, because we loved a log in the early aughts. Loved to log things. And I will also say, this is in my notes. Okay. We're just gonna get started. So, God, I'm so sorry I keep sitting so close to the camera. I just want to be close to your face. I tried to do this in categories, like go by category, but I'm just gonna go by chapter. This is a short book. It's easier to do that. So first off, we start with a prologue. We start off strong with a Bible verse about forbidden fruit. We love to see it. We get a Forks info dump right away, and I have to say, Crave learned well from its predecessor. It's almost tit for tat, exactly the same way that Grace describes Alaska in the beginning of Crave, is how Bella describes Forks. The only difference is it's cold instead of green, like practically plagiarism. We mentioned La Push, and I just want to get this out of the way because I promise you, I'm going to never get over it, and I'm going to talk about it in the New Moon video ad nauseum. Using a real-life Native American tribe, a real group of people who exist and are marginalized, and turning them into hairy animal rage monsters is absolutely, completely abhorrent, despicable, fucked up. I hope that the Quileute people got something out of this. They got money from the movies, they got money from tourism, they got some kind of positive something out of being brutalized by a white woman from Arizona, because you don't use a real group of marginalized, oppressed human beings, bastardize their history and like ancestral beliefs to make them into monsters. Like, you don't do that. First weird thing that happens in terms of writing, she says the air filtered down greenly. Greenly is not an adjective that you use in that context, but go off. The computer with the phone line in the modem took me back. She said, she pulls up to the school and she's like, no one was gonna bite me. And I'm like, okay, like, let's just fucking ram it in there, ham-fisted, always. We see the Cullens for the first time, and I wrote, Bella is very gay for Rosalie, but aren't we all? Jessica is telling Bella how the Cullens are all together and they all live together, but they are together, and Bella's like, you're being kind of judgmental, and I'm like, Bella, that's fucking illegal. Also, that's Edward, don't waste your time, none of the girls here are good looking enough for him. belongs to Anna Kendrick. The delivery of my audiobook narrator was identical to the delivery of that line by her in the movie. She did so much with so little. We have to stand. We have to. We don't have a choice. She says, the phrase, if looks could kill, ran through my mind. So mini writing lesson here. We're in the mind of you, Bella. You don't need to say that something ran through your mind because we're in your mind. So if you're thinking about it, we know it's running through your mind. That might just be personal preference to me, but that's a waste of words. She goes into the office and sees that Edward is trying to get his biology class changed. And this is something that I had a hard time with Hush Hush as well. Maybe it was different in the early aughts because I was in high school in like 2009 to 2012. But first of all, I don't think it's that hard to get your classes switched around if you have a really good reason, like Nora had in Hush Hush, which is that her partner was stalking her. But also, Edward, you know that every woman in town wants to bang your dad. So why would you not have your hot ass dad come up to the school and be like, my son can't be in this biology class anymore? They would immediately take you out. You've been to high school 88,000 times. Why am I smarter than you? Also in chapter 2, clothes that subtly hinted at designer origins. Again, in Crave, Grace was like, oh, he was wearing all Gucci black from across the room. And I'm poor, so I don't know what designer clothes look like unless there's a big ass logo on them. So please explain to me if you can tell that clothes are subtly designer. I don't understand this idea. I'm wearing a $5 alien tie-dye crop top from Ross right now. So chapter 2, they're talking about Wuthering Heights. Hardin and Tessa have entered the chat. And then we get to the first thing that made me go, holy shit, this book is old and outdated. Besides the funny stuff about like the computers and all that, like that's funny. Listen to this. Charlie is a cop, right? Her dad hangs up his gun belt. When I was little, he took the bullets out. I guess he considered me old enough now not to shoot myself on accident and not depressed enough to shoot myself on purpose. What? Could not believe what I was hearing with my ears. Edward is back and he never says it's the fluorescence in the book. That was only in the movie. Like when she's like, your eyes are different, he's like, it's the fluorescence. I could not believe. Again, I feel like the movie is like slightly superior because there's like really good lines in them in the movie that aren't in the book. Well, like that's just me. She calls him this bizarre, beautiful boy. I hate that. Chapter 3, I will say this book wastes no time, which I appreciate after Hush Hush and Crave. Like, thank you for getting to the point in chapter 3. Chapter 3, I was excited to get to school because I would see Edward, and that was very, very stupid. Like, Bella in the beginning of Twilight in the first half was funny. She was funny. She gets hit, whatever, goes to the hospital, and she meets Carlisle for the first time. He says something, and she's like, my intuition flickered. The doctor was in on it. In on, like, Edward being weird. And I'm like, Carlisle, you are 350 plus years of age. Why is a 17-year-old girl figuring you out? Why do you not know how to lie better? Like, this is why people say that Bella is a Mary Sue. A Mary Sue is like a way for an author to self-insert, and it's usually a protagonist who has like no flaws or is like unrealistically lacking in some weaknesses, and a 17-year-old human girl immediately knowing when a 362-year-old vampire is lying is Mary Sue behavior. Oh, Bella, you hit your head, you don't know what you're talking about. I wrote, there's our angsty gaslighting boy. Red flag number 1. The exchange of nobody will believe that, I'm not going to tell anybody, then why does it matter? And it matters to me. In that case, I hope you enjoy Disappointment. Primo. Delicious. We loved it. She said his livid, glorious face, which is good. But then she says, it was like trying to stare down a destroying angel. I just hate that metaphor, analogy, simile. Like the angel thing. I don't know. It just was weird to me. I don't know. Chapter 4, Mike sits on the edge of the biology table and ignores Edward, and this makes me laugh because I'm gonna put a meme right here. Then she says, my expression was wary when I finally turned to Edward. His expression was unreadable. There are more words for expression than expression, and I know that you own a thesaurus, Stephanie Meyer, because you abused the shit out of it in this book. Why not you? Why did you use? Why do we keep using? It must not be a noticeable thing until you hear it out loud, because there's no way so many people can read a book, proofread a book, beta read a book, edit a book, look at a book, touch a book, and not notice these things. It must just be hearing it out loud. So read your work out loud. Hey. Bella is very dumb for thinking that this guy regrets not letting her die. She's like, I know you regret saving me from that van. Like, what kind of sociopath would he have to be like, God, I really wish I would have let that girl get smushed? Like, no, are you crazy? She's talking about going to Seattle, and he's like, and her dad's like, do you want to go by yourself, whatever? And she goes, I can read a map. Imagine having to read a map and drive. Oh, we are so spoiled. She asks Edward, do you have a multiple personality disorder or something? And then he's talking to her, and she says he enunciated every word as if he were talking to someone mentally handicapped. What? Whoa, I can't. He asks to drive her to Seattle or whatever, and she's like, I thought that you didn't want to be friends. And then he's like, I'm tired of trying to stay away from you. And this makes me excited to read Midnight Sun, because I get that he's probably like already realizing he had feelings for her at this point, but he makes it very clear later that it was like almost impossible for him not to want to kill her. So I'm like, why did you offer to drive her to Seattle when you know that you're gonna be like in an enclosed space with her for a long time? Were you planning on killing her in Seattle? Like, I want to know. I read the leaked chapters of Midnight Sun like way back in the day when it first got leaked, but I don't remember if that was the case, if he was like, I am gonna kill her. I don't remember if that was the case, and they never really address it. And then he says, you really should stay away from me. I'm gonna drive you to Seattle, but you really should stay away from me. Red flag. Let's go. I didn't feel like mentioning that my stomach was already full ... of butterflies. Gross. What if I'm not a superhero? What if I'm the bad guy? Billie Eilish. Okay. The idea of taking blood in a high school biology class. Who gives high schoolers lancets to poke themselves with? Never would have happened in my school. There would have been multiple stabbings. Never would have happened. Edward dragging Bella to his car by her jacket because he doesn't trust her to drive home because she's so woozy is very funny in like reading about it, but like if I saw that happening, I would call 911 immediately. Chapter 6, when they go to first beach at La Push, the description of the beach was beautiful. Loved that. And then she says something about something undulated ceaselessly. It's like, gross, don't eat that. Baby Jacob. Dear Jacob Black, I am so sorry for what happens to you in the last 2.5 books of this series. I sincerely apologize on behalf of the world for the character assassination you experience. So then the older guy, Sam, he's like, the Cullens don't come here. And it's like, why even bring it up? Like, they know not to come. You guys know why they can't come. There's a treaty that says they can't come. So why mention it in front of mortals, humans? Like, why? There's no reason. So then she's like, Jacob, tell me why. And he's like, telling her the thing. And telling her the legend. Calls them, like, white people, the pale faces. And says the words, your people, twice. We don't need it. And then, the most iconic thing that has ever happened in our lives. Bella Googles the word vampire. Googles it. Looks it up on the internet. And then has to take down all the pop-ups because it's 2005. Oh God, iconic. I would like to reiterate here that between chapter 7 and chapter 10 of Twilight, Bella completely figures out what Edward is, as opposed to her descendants in hush hush. Nora does not figure it out until between chapter 22 and 24 of 35 chapters. Grace takes until like the late 30s, early 40s of a 66 chapter book to figure out what's going on. I will give Bella that. She is not as stupid as her descendants. Much obliged for not putting me through that. It says something about didn't want to be in the woods, not when the rain made it dim as twilight. We have said the title. We will say it a lot more. Like 4 times in the epilogue. Drama queen Bella Swan. No wonder she literally sat in a chair for months when they left in New Moon. She hasn't even started to date him, and he misses school, which makes her miserable. Red flag. Surprisingly, in this book at least, the red flags were much more Bella than they were Edward. He's got plenty. She's got more, which is surprising to me. Chapter 8, Poor Angelus. I wrote, Angela is our lesbian representation. Let's not lie. If this book wasn't written by a Mormon, she would have been gay. The whole time she's wandering around Port Angeles by herself, I'm having massive anxiety, even knowing that Edward's gonna rescue her. Like, I would never in my life, especially prior to smartphones, wander around a city that I didn't know that well by myself. Ever in my life. Ever in my life. But I do have self-preservation instincts, and we all know Bella Swan does not. She calls Edward her perpetual savior. Gross, I don't love that. Ooh, we have the dazzling conversation. Like, guys, what was wrong with us in 2005 that we were like, I want to be dazzled by Edward? Like, dazzle is the word. You know what dazzles me? Drag queens. So bizarre. It's such a bizarre term. Him telling her that she'll feel better when she's eaten makes me feel like he also Googled that night. Like, when she was Googling vampire, he was Googling like how to care for your human. Says he takes off his light beige leather jacket and he has it on a white turtleneck. I appreciate that he's not dressed in all black leather like Patch and Jackson and every other boy that we're not supposed to like. But also, any man who wears that much beige is a serial killer. No? Stephanie Meyer is very good at ending chapters. Chapter 9. This entire chapter is dialogue heavy, which I love, and I do in my own writing a lot. I wonder if this book subconsciously worms its way into my writing. We already know I was heavily inspired by it. Go watch the video of me reading my Twilight ripoff that I wrote in 8th grade. How old are you? 17. How long have you been 17? A while. Iconic. They're almost home. Almost to her house. And she's fucking crying at the idea of leaving him, and this is the problem. That is insane. That is unstable. It makes me anxious to be away from you, he said. His eyes were gentle but intense, and they seemed to be making my bones turn soft. This is good. This is good shit. Like, why is it that before they actually are like together, it's way hotter? Is it just the tension? Is it just like, what is it? What is it? Why is it so much? Their interactions are so much more intense and interesting. Like, everything about them is so much more intense and interesting before they actually start dating. And it's like, they still can't bone. They still can't like do normal things that normal couples do. So it should be even like more ratcheted when they do start to date, because now it's like, we know we feel this way about each other and we still can't do anything about it. And like, it fizzles. It really fizzles, and it really sucks, because the tension up until that point is like chef's kiss. Her traitor tears were there betraying her. Pick traitor or betraying. They mean the same thing. Don't gotta use them both. And then that chapter ends with the iconic tagline about 3 things I was absolutely positive. First, Edward was a vampire. Second, there was a part of him that thirsted for my blood. And third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. Do you notice I didn't read that? I didn't even write that down. I remember it verbatim. That's a self-read. That's I'm dragging myself here. I'm exposing myself. I hate that. Chapter 10, Edward comes to pick her up in the morning, and she says, my heart spluttered hyperactively. Spluttered is a terrible word. Don't ever use it again. I truly love that Edward's like, Jessica wants to know what happened between us, and she's like, well, what should I say? And he's like, I don't know, but I'm gonna be listening to what you're gonna say. So she's like letting it be known that she's horny as hell for Edward. Bella is truly the icon of our generation, the legend, the girl who died for. His voice was amused and irritated at the same time. How? She says, you're doing it again, dazzling me. Gross. His liquid topaz eyes. This book really was the blueprint for weird descriptions of weird eyes. She says, well, look at me. I'm absolutely ordinary, so clumsy, I'm almost disabled. Then he's talking about like he can't stay away from her because she has this like penchant for danger, like dangerous things are attracted to her, and she's like, well, if I had to, I could put myself in danger to keep him close. We got a red flag here, everybody. Like, it's huge. Do you see it? It's taken over the whole page. Holy shit. What? Oh my god. Chapter 11. When they're in the dark in biology, because the movie, oh my god. This was so titillating as a 12-year-old. Like, imagine being sitting next to your crush in the class, and it's dark, and there's a movie on, and you guys are like wanting to touch hands so bad, but you can't. she does that whole monologue about like, what's your favorite color? Brown. She's like, brown is warm. I miss brown. Everything here is green. It's gross. Like blah blah blah. He looks at her and he's just like, you're right. Brown is warm. This is what I'm talking about. Like as they start to become more comfortable around each other, they start to be cheesy as fuck. Hate it. And then she says something like, I can't breathe when we are apart. I think this is when she goes to gym and they've been spending like the whole day together between classes, and she goes to gym and she can't see him and she's like so upset about it. And I was like, this is bad. Another red flag. Describing Arizona was very good. Stephenie Meyer is very good at describing places. I will give her that. Edward says it's Twilight. So we be saying the title a lot. I wrote, sweet baby Jacob. God, why is he going to be the worst in just 2 short books? Sincerely will never forgive Stephenie Meyer for his character assassination. I can't. He grinned his crooked smile at me, stopping my breath and my heart. I couldn't imagine how an angel could be any more glorious. I was like, why are we getting so cringe? I can't. My sister, talking about Rosalie, he says, my sister is worried that if I kill you after publicly dating you, it'll be bad. Because Rosalie is the only one with a brain in this entire book. She has all the brain cells, all 2 of them in this book. That's that. Alice, her short inky hair and a halo of spiky disarray around her exquisite elfin face. That was a lot of words. So they're going somewhere together. It was Seattle, and now he's like, can I take you somewhere else? And she's like, yeah. And he was like, everybody knows, like, you told people that we're going together, right? And she was like, yeah, people know, like, I'm going somewhere. And then he's like, please make sure someone knows that we're together so I have some incentive to bring you back alive, because I do want to kill you. And she lies to Mike, Jessica, and her dad, and says she's going to be alone, despite him being like, please tell someone we're together so that I have to bring you back, because otherwise I might just kill you. And she's like that penguin that's like, well, now I am not doing it. Like, I just need teenage girls in books to have the tiniest crumb, an iota of self-preservation, just a smidge, or just like will to live, desire to live, maybe, like just want to. And then they drive to the edge of the forest, and then they hike 5 miles to the meadow. Let a man take me on a date. We get there, not even before, we get there, and he's like, we gotta walk 5 miles through the forest now. I would never talk to that man again. I would turn my happy ass around. First of all, you know he wants to kill you. Second of all, 5 miles in the forest? They hiked for hours. No, I need to bring a snack. I need to bring water. She tells him that no one knows where she is. She admits, she's like, I told them I was by myself. And he's like,
you are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And then she has this whole, like, she sees, like, his beauty or whatever, and is, like, feeling so inferior to him, like, feeling really bad about not being as, like, how much more beautiful he is than her. And, like, in context, I totally get it. He's, like, a mythical creature, and she's a human being, so, like, that's fine. But what a terrible message this was. Like, I hate that as a 12-year-old with 0 self-esteem, I read this and, like, I wanted to be like Bella, even though she's a 17-year-old girl with 0 self-esteem. Like, we should just have more self-esteem. Like, full stop. Let's write women with self-esteem, please. Please. So they go into the meadow, and he does his sparkly thing, because these vampires sparkle, and he's like, I don't scare you. And she's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, you're sparkly. Like, I'm not afraid of you either. I just need to know why he sparkled. I need to know why this was a concept. Why? The amount of times she says his golden eyes overall is wild. Like, he's like, I don't want you to be afraid. And then literally half a page later, he's running around and he's like, as if you could outrun me, as if you could fight me off. And I'm like, red fucking flag, bro. You just said you didn't want her to be afraid. Oh my God. And then he comes up to her and he's like, don't be afraid.
I don't understand. I don't understand, bitch. I don't understand.
The whole conversation about I'm your own personal brand of heroin. Does heroin have brands? Or is this written by a Mormon who thinks heroin is like potato chips? I don't know. I cannot tell you. But I don't think heroin has brands. Right? Language that Stephenie Meyer is using when Edward is describing wanting to kill Bella is directly to blame for the levels of horniness that we all felt for this book. Listen to this. He's talking about when he met her in biology, I was thinking of all the ways that I could get you alone. And he says, you would have come. And she says, without a doubt. And then talking about how they met in the office, and he's like, I so very nearly took you then. What? And so the lion fell in love with the lamb. Okay, dude, I'm just glad that I wasn't old enough to get tattoos when I first read this, because people did. I think I would have gotten one. It was the pinnacle of romance to me at the time. Oh, and their first kiss is trash in the book. Trash. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. And I'm mad about it. I remembered it being in her house. Was that in the movie or something? I don't know. She calls his face seraphic. It would cause me physical pain to be away from him now. We always talk about Edward being an angsty boy, but we truly underestimate Bella in this arena. She is also soy angsty. Or drive back because he says, friends don't let friends drive drunk. You're intoxicated by my very presence. This is the moment when they went from angsty, tension, good stuff to cheeseballs.com. And I was furious. And now we enter Red Flag City. Population, Edward and Bella. Chapter 14, Edward takes her back to her house. And he knows where her spare key is hidden because he's been spying on her. And she's like, I couldn't be mad. Yes, you can. First of all, I don't care how hot he is. He was spying on you. Secondly, he just spent the entire day telling you how badly he wanted to kill you up until like yesterday, last week. And you're not a little perturbed that he was at your house every night? Every night. He says, you're very interesting. We're still in Red Flag City, guys. You're very interesting when you sleep. And he says, are you very angry? And she says, depends on what you heard. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It depends on if it's cool for a dude to watch you sleep when you live on the second floor of the house. It's not even like he's just watching through the window like a normal creep. He's in your house. Gotta be inside of your room to be watching you, because he can't just watch you through the window. You live on the second floor. So he's inside of your house watching you sleep. And you're just like, oh my God, what did you hear when I was sleep talking? What? I guess Edward goes up to her room to like hide from her dad, and she tells him to stay, and he says, yes, ma'am. First of all, Hardin and Tessa from After have this same exact dialogue exchange. Secondly, stop calling your significant other ma'am and sir. It's gross. I'm from the South. I only call like my grandparents ma'am and sir, so like it's not sexy to me and I hate it. Please stop doing it. A couple times in this book, including in chapter 14, Bella says something sarcastic, because she is very sarcastic actually, and I really do enjoy that about her. But she says the sarcastic comment and then she clarifies that she's saying it sarcastically. You don't need to do that. Unnecessary. If your tone is correct, we know that you're being sarcastic. Right? He's singing to her as she sleeps, and she says, it's the voice of an archangel in my ear, and I'm just so tired of him being compared to an angel. I just hate that. She says, I love you, and he says, you are my life now. Cool, bro. The phrase vampire sweetheart, no. The khaki skirt, she's like, I gotta look hot for my boyfriend's family. I'm putting on my ankle-length khaki skirt. The Mormon jumped out. And then he says, she's like, I'm decent. He's like, wrong. You are utterly indecent. No one should look so tempting. It's not fair. She's in a blouse and, again, an ankle-length khaki skirt. Mormons. He kisses her. This is what I remember them being their first kisses. He kisses her and she fainted. Passed out. And then Edward's like, hey, there's some visitors coming. I just want you to know that they're coming because I'm going to be overprotective while they're here, and I don't want you to think I'm naturally a tyrant. I've read Eclipse. The lie detector determined that was a lie. And then he says, I was beginning to think you had no sense of self-preservation at all. Like, you are absolutely correct, sir. Oh, him playing her the lullaby and she's crying and he licks her tear, like wipes it off and puts it in his mouth. So wild Reminds me very much of Jackson licking the blood off of Grace's face in Crave. Very much so. Chapter 16, Carlisle. Not to be rude, but I do not care this much about Carlisle's specific story. Sorry, I just don't. Oh, and then we're talking about like Edward killing bad people because he can read their minds. And I really, truly, please direct me if there is fan fiction of Edward and Rosalie teaming up for vigilante justice back in the day, because she killed her husband once she became a vampire. He was killing. Like, can we please have some? Can we have some fan fiction, please? Give it to me. Whole like, I don't find you scary, and he tackles her onto the couch and he's like, you're a very terrifying monster. Like, and this is where I wrote, Stephanie writes great angsty arguing dialogue, but the more comfortable they get around each other, the more cheesy they become, and I hate it. Alice and Jasper come in, they're talking to Bella and Edward, and in those 5 sentences, I fell in love with Alice and Jasper, and I remain there to this day. Chapter 17, they pull up to Bella's house and Jacob's out there, and Edward's like, the child has no idea, and Bella's like, he's not a child, he's like the same age as me, and Edward's like, he smiles and says, I know. So we've been exploring the theme of child grooming before Breaking Dawn. It was here. She planted the seed. Nothing will ever be as iconic as the baseball scene in the movie, set to Supermassive Black Hole by Muse. There will never be another piece of cinema that is as iconic, and I'm sorry to tell you. And then they're like, oh my god, the 3 savage vampires are on the way. What should we do? And they're like, Edward, leave with Bella. And he's like, oh man, they might catch the scent and try to hunt her. Better just keep playing baseball. And it's like, or you could just leave, and if they catch up with you, be like, hey, dibs, I have dibs on this one, don't touch her. And they should be like, they were in the field, in the field where you were playing, they were like, hey, we won't encroach on your hunting territory. So if they ran into you with Bella, just be like, this is mine, dibs. And then the rest of the book didn't have to happen. And Laurent says, you brought a snack. Fucking iconic. Emmett is ready to rumble. Emmett is always ready to fight. Charlie is the most abused character in these books. I said what I said. Besides Jacob, maybe. Emmett tucked Bella into his chest like a football. We love to see it. Emmett is about that fucking life, dude. Oh my god. Edward growling and roaring, like, so funny to me. Thinking about, like, Robert Pattinson, like, growling. I don't know. It's just so funny to me. He holds her up by her face and kisses her. Like picks her up by the face and kisses her. That's not how that works. Chapter 20. Bella fell asleep on the way to Phoenix, and I was like, how the fuck did she fall asleep when she's running for her life? And then I said, oh, I know how, because we got to get to Phoenix without boring the reader. So night night. Just like in Caraval, when she was passed out on the boat for 2 entire days, because it took 2 days to get to Caraval, so we had to just pass the time. I respect the device. I understand it. I used it myself in Accidental Evils to get to Atlanta, but doesn't make sense. Not gonna lie. She sees James in a long room with mirrors running a VCR. Again, VCR, iconic. I just need to know why Bella, I can't walk without tripping, Swan, was ever in a dance studio. It's just such like a weird, I don't know why it ever had to be a place that she went. Like, if it's just near her mom's house and James is a messy bitch that lives for drama, which he is, which we'll talk about in a couple of chapters, just make it somewhere that's near her house. So he like tracked her scent to the mom's house and was like, oh, here's a really dramatic place for me to do this. Love it. I don't get it. If they know that James is going to be potentially going to be at a dance studio near Bella's mother's house, which he knows the location of, because we already heard that Victoria was in Forks going to the school and like digging up shit on Bella. Why did they wait an entire day before deciding to take Bella out of Phoenix? Immediately they should have been like, all right, well, your mom's not in town, right? So we'll call her, make sure that she doesn't come back early. Be like, Mom, don't come back early. I gotta talk to you. Please don't come back to the house till you talk to me. Fine. Get Bella the fuck out of there. And bring other members of the family down to like canvass Renee's house and make sure that nothing goes wrong. Like, why wait the entire day? What were they waiting on? It takes Alice seeing Renee's house in a vision, Renee's house, for them to decide to leave when she's already said the studio is close to her mom's house. She used to go to the studio, etc., etc. Like Bella already told you, hey, this studio is around the corner from my mom's. I used to walk there. And I used to go there as a kid. At that point, you should immediately be like, he's within an X amount of mile radius to her mother, so let's get out of here. But no. Chapter 22. The fact that Alice sees Bella die in a vision and Bella still manages to get away from them makes no sense. Alice is smarter than anyone else in the series. I know I said Rosalie has all the brain cells, but Alice has all the common sense, like most of it anyway. And I don't believe for the character assassination jumped out, because I don't believe for 1 second that Alice would let Bella go in the airport with just Jasper. Not for 1 second. All three of them should go together. She even says, they were watching me twice as carefully now. This would be impossible to escape. The lie detector determined that was a lie. It was a lie. Because all of a sudden Alice is just like, I'm just going to sit here and wait for my family to get off the plane instead of protecting the person that I'm went across the country with to protect. She gets to the ballet studio and she hears her mom's voice again, and she starts running around looking for her mom. And how do you not realize that your mom's voice is coming from a TV speaker? James is like, I see why your coven likes to observe your kind. Some of you seem to have no sense of your own self-interest at all. And like, he read her for filth, because like, what have I been saying for X amount of minutes? He villain monologues for 2 pages. I never realized how much I love James. He's a messy bitch that lives for drama. He's videotaping her murder so that Edward will come after him. Fucking diabolical. We love to see it. And I also forgot that he was the one that turned Alice. That's actually a very interesting little tidbit that doesn't matter, because he's going to die in like 10 pages. Chapter 23. Why does Edward have to suck the venom out of Bella's hand? Why? Why did it have to be him? Please tell me. He has made it very clear that he has never smelled a human as good as her before. So, we got Carlisle with 300 years of practice, who operates on people for a living, who's very, very, very accustomed to the smell of blood. And the excuse they give is that Carlisle has to put pressure on her head wound if Edward's gonna suck blood out of her arm. Are you telling me that Edward couldn't hold the compress while Carlisle sucked the blood out of her arm? Chapter 24, shh, he shushed me. Yeah, we just heard him say shh. You don't have to say he shushed me. There's an iconic, I don't remember what book this is in, an iconic line from, I want to say New Moon or Breaking Dawn, and it says, Arrow laughed. Ha ha ha, he giggled. She's so like, again, I'm gonna start a fight club, but it's just gonna be me and the editors of these books. I'm going to physically cause them harm. She fell down 2 flights of stairs and out a window because she's so clumsy. Like, okay. But also, Alice fabricated the broken window and she had too much fun doing it. And I am once again asking for a spin-off / fan fiction of Edward, Rosalie, and Alice doing vigilante justice. Please, give it to me now. Don't leave me, I cried, an irrational surge of panic flooding through me. I couldn't let him go. He might disappear from me again. This reaffirms the red flag of Bella being wholly codependent on Edward. That makes what he does in New Moon that much worse. Like, that much worse. It's very unhealthy the way she's behaving, and like, what other choice does he have but to leave her because she's insane? Do you swear you won't leave me? I swear. How fucking emo are they, is what I wrote. She's having a panic attack over the idea of him leaving, and like, just knowing what's coming in like the first 3 chapters of New Moon is just like, girl, your life ain't, you in danger, girl. Like, for real. They have this, she's talking about wanting to be a vampire, but the man and the woman have to be somewhat equal, as in one can't always be swooping in and saving the other. They have to save each other equally. So Bella gets exactly 1 moment of feminist ideation in about 500 pages. Got it. Thank you so much. He says, you have saved me, which, like, puke. She says, I can't always be Lois Lane. I want to be Superman too. Puke. And then she says, he's like, well, I don't want to take everything away from you. You'll lose everything. She's like, you're the only thing it would hurt me to lose. Bella, you have a whole fucking family. A whole ass family. A whole ass set of parents who love you. And then Edward says that. He's like, what about Charlie? What about Renee? Which, like, thank you for being smarter by, like, 1 iota than Bella. But, like, it's not hard. She's getting all upset, and Edward's like, I'm gonna call the nurse to give you more morphine or whatever the fuck so you pass out. And she's like, please don't. He's like, no, I'm doing it. Not cool. Not cool. Bodily autonomy is a thing. Don't put drugs into me without my consent. Ever. Epilogue. No reason for this to be an epilogue, but again, we loved a log. She's in a dress with her hair all done, and he's in a suit, and she's like, oh my god, like, we're doing something, maybe this is my turning ceremony, maybe this is like the way they do this. And I'm like, you didn't think of prom first? What? Also, Alice puts her in a stiletto heel when her other foot is in a walking cast. Why? How? And also why? It is only after Charlie calls Edward and tells him that Tyler's at the house to take Bella to prom that Bella realizes, oh, we're going to prom. She mentions that the date was on the flyers at school. So at first I was like, maybe she wasn't going to school because of her leg. No, she was going to school. So you're telling me you have 2 classes with Jessica, I never shut the fuck up, whatever her last name is, and I do not believe you. I do not believe you for a nanosecond that you had classes with Jessica and didn't know when prom was. I don't believe you whatsoever. I'm also really not in the business of Bella being dragged to shit that she doesn't want to do, either because Edward wants her to have a human experience or because he wants to have the human experiences he never got to have. Either way, she's made it clear she doesn't like dances or dancing, and he just takes her anyway because he's like, you'll like it with me. And it's like, that's not the point. Like, again, bodily autonomy. She says later, in what parallel dimension would I have gone to prom of my own free will? Exactly. Because he's like, I want you to live your life as you would if I didn't exist, because I'm not supposed to exist. She's like, okay, well, if we're doing that, then I would have never fucking gone to prom. So, like, maybe listen to me when I say what I do and don't want to do. She's dancing on his feet, and she's like, I feel like I'm 5 years old. And he's like, you don't look 5. I'm like, ew. Oh my god. And then Rosalie was beyond belief, which I wrote LOL gay. Like we're all gay for Rosalie. Let's not even lie or pretend at this point. Honestly, it's 2020. Rosalie Hale is that bitch. Okay, let's just be honest. Jacob shows up because Billy wants him to go talk to her, and he's just being so sweet. And then she's like, do you see anything you like? Talking about the other girls, and he's like, yeah, but she's taken. I'm like, oh, Jacob, I'm just saying you could do better. Oh, poor guy. And then Edward's all mad after her and Jacob danced together. He called you pretty. That's practically an insult. Like, dude, shut up. Oh, and then they go outside and they're talking. He's like, what did you think was gonna happen? You seem really surprised I was taking you to prom. Like, what the hell did you think was gonna happen? She was like, I was hoping you would turn me. And he's like, what? And then she's like, I'm ready for it, like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, wow, Twilight again. Talking about outside. And then he's like, God, you're so ready for this to end. So ready for this to be the twilight of your life. We say Twilight 3 times in the epilogue. And it's like, did you add this after you decided what the title would be? Did you make the title Twilight because of the amount of times you say Twilight? So, like, final thoughts. Like, obviously, this book was, like, the iconic YA. This, like, really launched... I don't want to say it launched YA because I'm a big fan of, like, L.J. Smith, Christopher Pike, point horror, like, 90s books, thanks to the podcast Teen Creeps. If you don't know about Teen Creeps, I'll put a link in the description if I remember. But it definitely reinvigorated it, right? It definitely set the tone for, like, every YA book that came after it. I mean, hello, I reviewed a book that came out this year that sounded identical to this, a book that came out 15 years ago. So, like, you know, it's definitely the blueprint. But I did not remember how much, I mean, I remembered loving this book, obviously, but I did not remember how good the first, like, 10 chapters are in terms of, like, their dynamic and the way, you could call it Bella's character development all you want. The way that Bella loses her personality immediately upon her feelings being reciprocated is wild. So in case you don't follow me on Instagram, which you should, be Renee Wrights, link in the description, you don't know that this month is Twilight month here on the channel. I'm going to be reviewing all 4 of the original Twilight books, and I'm also, next week, going to be reviewing the new release, Midnight Sun. If you don't know, Midnight Sun is Twilight from Edward's point of view, the same book from Edward's point of view instead of Bella's. I will see you then. Bye.